Threesome Podcast 150. I have missed you, Stacey.
I've missed you, Lexi Poo.
How are you, my dear?
Eh.
Yeah, I sensed in leading up to this that neither one of us are kicking ass, but I'm doing all right. I'm doing okay.
I mean, there's nothing wrong. You know, it's not like, there's been a death or anything like that. We've just been talking about it. Of course, no one heard that part of the conversation, but I just don't really see any point to anything.
No, it is kind of a darkness thing. When something cataclysmic happens to you outside of normal.
Right.
And, it's like, I by no means have thought about offing myself or anything like that. But
no, this is not a call for help or anything like that.
But
that would require effort. And at this point, I'm too fucking lazy to even, lift a blade to any of my veins or anything.
But
I'm just like,
I just spent the last 7 or 8 years with somebody I really loved and enjoyed, and I don't see that getting replaced. And that just saddens the fuck out of me. So my
you're grieving.
Yeah, so my direction now is no more girls until I get out of this funk.
Straight up dick.
Just not in the mood.
No, I understand. And honestly, when my husband and I split up, I didn't get depressed. I got happy, a rare burst of happiness. And I still don't feel any regret. So I'm in a very different place than you are. Well, but I've had relationships in the past that I have been very heartbroken about. Well, so I get it.
Lisa and I have talked about this, and it's like there's 50% of it sucks, and then there's 50% of it that is kind of good.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I have all this time to do things. I didn't realize I missed so much. Tennis, golf, movies, just sleep,
Well, and I told you that, I want you to be alone, because you were with Sandy 30 years, and then you had Lisa right away. There wasn't really any breaks there, and I realized there were occasional breaks with Sandy, at least at the beginning and stuff, but in your adult life, it's been a long time since you've been alone. And I want you to embrace it and look at it as an exciting thing, not a depressing thing. Embrace your aloneness for at least a little while.
Yeah, and
be comfortable. There are so many people who are not comfortable being alone with themselves. My ex-husband is one of those people. The prospect of just sitting silently by himself terrified him. He couldn't do it. He'd have to talk to someone. He'd have to get on the phone. I think it's a very healthy thing for a person to be comfortable with themselves. And I think you're comfortable with yourself, but I think you need to just decompress and get used to that total independence of, I'm not going to put pants on at all this weekend. And I'm not leaving the house, just stuff like that.
Oh yeah, my first 2 weekends, I just sat there and loved the fact I only had one animal to walk. Because those things ran our lives.
Right. Oh, I understand.
And she's got 2, so it still kind of runs hers, but when it's both of us together and there's 3 of them, there's always somebody wanting something. And we had 5 dogs at one point in the house. One of them 100-pounder. So, but at least you had a backyard, and you can let we had to walk them because we're in an apartment.
Yes, that sucks.
Yeah, and that sucks at 3 a.m. That sucks at 7 p.m. when it's in winter and the wind's blowing 20 miles an hour and it's 6 degrees. That sucks. You know,
I'm sorry, Michigan winter, you get no sympathy from me.
Once
But
again,
I understand.
though, you have a backyard.
I do. Well, there are times that it's so cold or it has just snowed so much that you'll open the door, the dog will get right there and then stop and look and then go, no, I don't think I'm going out now. And it's like, oh, you bitch, you're going to shit in the kitchen in an hour,
Yeah, and listen, don't get me wrong. I loved our pets. I do.
Right, me too.
And I'm definitely grieving with Sonny gone. Mookie, not so much, but Sonny, that's tough. Right. He's just an amazing dog, and he's so sweet, and he was kind of my buddy. And, that was, the day she was walking down the hall leaving with him, and, I'm got tears going down my face, and she turns around, she's like, it's going to be all right, and I went, not you, Sonny.
I'm not even looking at your ass right now.
No, I'm
looking at the dog.
I know I'm going to be talking to you and seeing you, but Sonny, he's gone. And quite frankly, he's nicer than you are. So, yeah, I didn't think about the grieving about my pets and stuff like that. I didn't even give that a thought until they were gone. I was like, oh my God, it's fucking empty here, man.
Right.
Whoa. And
Jeff, when he was getting ready to leave, because we had Willow, which was his dog. Willow was sweet to me, but she
Whoop, where you at? What happened? Well, that happened.
The day that he left, and I finally, just leave Sophie. Just leave her. She'll bark at least, I was just kind of looking at single female living alone, and she has turned into this wonderful dog now, and she's on me all the time. She sleeps on top of me. She's a 45-pound dog, and she doesn't curl up next to me. She sleeps on top of me under the covers.
See, I don't know if I told you this, but as she was getting into her apartment and all that stuff, they were kind of all over, inspecting, her pets and all that stuff. So I had to keep Caesar with me, and he's the 17, 18-year-old cat that, pisses on pads. Right. And so he stayed with me.
Aww.
Along with the other cat, and I had Angus. I had those 3 pets. She had the 2 dogs. And Caesar was a godsend. He just hung with me and looked out for me for 3 weeks till I kind of got past it all.
Aw.
And I don't know if I told you this or not. He passed away.
I did not know that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think it was 3 weeks ago, 3 or 4 weeks ago. We took him to this place on a Sunday because he just couldn't. He was walking into stuff, and his eyes were all glassy, and he was just kind of wobbly. It was time.
Right.
And oh God.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, absolutely brutal. Because
all of my pets have all become terribly ill and needed to be euthanized on weekends or holidays. It's they know.
Yeah.
It's not only, and I've had 2, I've had, it was Squeaker, I've had 2 cats, and then my Pom, who died naturally. We weren't able to get a vet to them in time. And that sucks in a different way because it's just awful.
Yeah. So
watching them die that way.
So I get by all this. I'm like, okay, everything's starting to settle down. And, Angus is just money. He's no trouble at all. He, goes in other rooms to sleep. He doesn't really bug you, except he just tells you when he needs to go outside. And man, oh man, he was depressed. He did not get off of that bed except to do 2 things. eat and piss. I mean, that's it. I mean, he was just rocked by the house emptying. And, yeah, God, it was sad. You know, I didn't know Angus had feelings.
They do. They get affected by weird stuff, too.
Yeah.
Like, sometimes it's not exactly what you think it would have been, you know.
But, you know, he still is not all the way back. He still does not like the arrangement at all, you know, of just me and him and Pickles. He does not like that.
Pickles.
And Pickles is getting ready to go back to her, you know, so.
Aw.
Yeah, which I may have to fight for custody.
You know what I see in your future? A hedgehog.
Ron Jeremy?
Yes, and name it Ron. And have an Instagram account and take pictures of him. Oh my God, that would be hilarious. Lex and his hedgehog.
That's awesome. If I had more time, I swear. That's right up my alley. Who are we going to fuck with next? Let's see, what else did I do since the last time I talked to you? Oh, I played rhythm guitar in a rock band.
I remember that was your thing. So how did it go?
It went great. I mean,
Good.
These guys were so cool in Monroe. I mean, the one guy's been playing 40 years, and he's fighting cancer right now. And, you know, there were 2 nights there. I know for a fact, had I not been coming into town to practice, he wouldn't have showed up. You know, and he babysat me through that whole thing. He taught me stuff in 3 hours that I didn't know in the year and a half I'd been playing. You know, I mean, it was just so gratifying. I actually have fun playing now. You know, it's like all these secrets unlocked, and it started making sense to me. I'm like, oh my God, I get it now.
Right.
You know, so we did AC/DC Livewire. And we kicked ass on it. And then we did Kiss Rock and Roll All Night. You Really Got Me. And Dee did like this. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. And Dee did like this, impromptu rap with this really cool beat. And we just all started putting in our own chords and stuff. And that was fun.
So it was like a jam session.
It was like a jam, yeah. You know, but it was like very very jazzy almost. You know, it was awesome.
Jazz rap.
And yeah, I mean, it was cool. And I
not to be confused with jazz hands.
No, fuck jazz hands. It's terrible. Anytime I see somebody do jazz hands, I just want to backhand them into the next century.
With jazz hands.
Yeah. Even that movie where Roy Scheider was the jazz man. As cool as he is, I even wanted to punch him out.
I don't know what movie that was. Are you talking about the guy from Jaws?
Jazz singer. He played Ray Fosse, who's like a legendary jazz like singer dancer guy.
Oh.
Who was like in the 50s, 60s, 70s. He was up for an Academy Award for it, even before Jaws. And
wow.
And there's one part of that movie where he does jazz, and it's like, oh no, no, not Roy Scheider.
Who is the black guy I'm thinking of? His name is right on the tip of my tongue. He's dead.
Jimi Hendrix?
Was a dancer. No, he was a dancer. He died like in the
Gregory
80s
Hines.
or 90s. Yes, him. Exactly. Yeah. Thank you. That was bugging me. That's who I was thinking at first.
Yeah, I remember he was made that movie with Baryshnikov.
Yes.
And,
that's, I think, what I was thinking of.
Yeah, that's one of the discussions Lisa and I had when we were together about Baryshnikov, because he was on Sex and the City for a while, which is like her jam.
Yes.
And he was on there as one of Carrie's love interest, and I went...
He was the super, 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 super rich one, wasn't he?
He was the
The artist.
Yeah, he was the super rich one, and then I don't know if you remember the movie White Knights, where he's like a Russian superstar ballet dancer, and Gregory Hines is an American that's like sequestered in Siberia, and they like meet each other.
He's Misty Copeland.
Who knows? I have no idea. But he was like a tap dancer or something. It was a weird movie,
right?
And
look up Misty Copeland if you don't know who she is. She's the black prima ballerina for, I think, the New York Ballet. Yeah. She's tall, and she's everything that should not be a ballerina, and she did it. She's their head ballerina. She's fantastic.
But anyway, I was telling Lisa that Gregory Hines was like the shit, for a while.
Right.
In like the 80s and 70s and 80s. And then near the end, before he died, he ended up doing like Friends and stuff like that.
Was he on Friends?
Yeah, he was. He was, God, whose boyfriend was he?
Gregory Hines?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, because I've just been binging Friends. I'm like right at the end of season 9. And I don't, unless he showed up in season 10, I don't remember him.
Yeah, let's see. Here we go. Let me see where he was. It says Gregory Hines' list of movies and TV shows. Maybe I'm thinking about a different sitcom. I am. He was on Will and Grace.
Oh, okay. That makes more sense. Just Jack.
Just Jack.
He's also got jazz hands.
But by the way, they released that on iTunes for free.
Really?
And Lisa and I, before she left, like watched every episode, like straight through. And God, the writing on that show, holy shit. I mean, that's a funny motherfucking show.
Megan Mullally with her hubby doing the Sling commercials.
Yes.
Are just little gems. Like, the commercials themselves are stupid, but they're just fantastic.
Well, it's like they use the joke over and over again on on the show, but it's like her and she'd be drinking and she'd take a couple Xanax. She goes, I've had a tough day. I need a couple Xanax and all this stuff. And she'd chase it down with some scotch and whatever. And Jack would go, hey, you are not supposed to mix alcohol and pills. And they stare at each other for about 3 seconds. It never gets old. It's like they did it like 6 or 7 times. It was just as good as the last.
Did you ever watch Parks and Recreation?
I did. Sam went back and watched it, and I started watching a few episodes, but I need to go back to the beginning.
You need to, and you need to give it some time. It didn't catch me right away, but by like the 3rd season, if you've stuck with it, you start to get the jokes because they're all like inside jokes that like call back from things that happened the season before and that kind of thing. And so there is a payoff because you start getting it and you actually feel like you're kind of part of their little office group. But Nick Offerman is in it. He's Ron or whatever his name is. And
he's her real husband, right?
In real life, yes. And he'd been married. He was divorced 3 times, I think. And the first 2 were women named Tammy. So it was Tammy 1 and Tammy 2. And Megan Mullally, his real life wife, played Tammy number 2. And she would come into town and was just psychotic. And they had so much fun. They're a very funny couple, very, very funny, and they seem to love each other a lot. They have fun together.
Yeah, I used to tell my friends that I was totally in love with her. And they're like, man, I couldn't see you with her, and I'm like, oh, I could. Are you fucking kidding me? She's entertaining as shit.
Yes, look at her hubby Nick Offerman. Yeah. Is that his name? He's Mr. worker guy when he's not like being a funny comedian guy.
Yeah, Mr. Deadman.
Yes, very. And then she's all, with that voice. She's great.
Oh, honey.
They're great. But those sling commercials, it's like, yeah, the first time we slinged. It's like they're all just like kind of trashy. She's like dressed in.
So I was hoping I would have a chance to see the Elton John movie before we did this, but I haven't. But have you seen the previews?
Yes, I have.
What do you think? Did they get the right guy?
I don't know, because he, to me, when I look at him, I don't think he looks like Elton John. But I also don't think there's enough in the previews for me personally to judge whether he was able to encompass Elton John.
See, here's my thing. Elton John, when he came on the scene, Madman Across the Water, Tumbleweed Connection, all that stuff. I mean, I was like the biggest Elton John fan all the way up to about Yellow Brick Road. And when it started going into, kind of pop radio and some Kiki D and all that stuff, I kind of left it behind.
Right.
But that era of Elton John, where he got kind of pudgy and his cheeks got kind of fat, he kind of looked like a baby almost.
Right.
This guy fits that era perfectly, and I'm wondering if that's where most of the movie focuses, is because
they could also do
that
things,
was,
because remember the first Captain America at the very beginning, what's his face, Captain America, Steve Rogers, that's his name. They made him super skinny. They used like CGI to make him like a little weakling.
Yeah.
Puny, so they maybe could shave some cheek off, a chub or something.
But he is
there's also like shading that can be done. The contouring of a face can make all the difference in the world.
but there's some parts of his career where he fits, and then there's other parts it's like, oh no, he almost looked like a British author in the beginning. He had like the sweaters with the turtlenecks and the glasses, and he wasn't.
Wait, this is the Tolkien movie?
The what?
Oh, the movie about J.R.R. Tolkien.
Oh, yeah.
And they said, how do you pronounce your name? And he says Tolkien. And it's like, okay, fine. We've all been saying his name wrong for, 40-some years.
Yeah.
Get over it.
Yeah.
It's Tolkien, and it will always be Tolkien.
But the more he got comfortable with his sexuality and all that, that's when we started seeing the clothing change immensely.
Right.
In the beginning, he was obviously coached and managed to be very conservative, like a guy sitting at a piano that's a songwriter,
right.
Playing with an orchestra. Pretty much what I had in mind. If I
like Liberace, of course.
Yeah. No, without the candelabra, of course.
And the sequin cape.
I'm sure he asked for it, though. And, it's like I had no idea through all that. I didn't even know what gay was. I was like 13, 12, somewhere around there when all that came out. And it's like it happened right before our eyes, and none of us knew at all, until my sister, who could be kind of a bitch, I was listening to Captain Fantastic, and Someone Saved My Life Tonight was on there.
Right.
She goes, what that's about? I went, I don't know. He was in trouble and somebody saved his life. I don't know, Yeah. And she goes, he's gay. And he almost married a heterosexual. But she didn't say it like that. She said, married a woman that loves men, but he doesn't love women. And I was like, yes, he does.
That's like all the women in the 70s and before who loved Liberace, too. All the Midwestern housewives who had no idea Liberace was gay.
Yeah. But for some reason, I always knew he was gay. I always knew there was something
Elton or Liberace?
Liberace. And I don't know if it's because
a child who didn't know. And again, we're talking about, the 70s, not like today, folks. So
right.
I would hope that I would handle things much differently now. But, when you're a little kid and you get your 3 TV channels, NBC, CBS, and ABC were your 3 choices. So you weren't exposed to a lot in small town 70s America. Well, yeah, you had no idea. I just knew there was something weird with him. But it was because he was so flamboyant. It wasn't that he was gay that made him weird. It was his flamboyant stuff.
Well, looking back on it, I think my dad handled it really well. Because I'm like, man, he really goes all out, doesn't he? And my dad goes, he likes men. That's it's like he'd rather be with men than women. And I was like, really? He's like, yeah. And he just left it at that. And I was not super offended by that. I was like, okay.
I think it's also how your parents deal with, if it like, oh my God, he's gay, ew, he's a fag, ew, then you immediately go, no, as a kid. Mm-hmm. But if your parents are like, it ain't no thing, then you're kind of like, it ain't no thing.
Yeah.
It's just all in how it's presented, and if it's told in a matter-of-fact way. But, just like with, I actually was thinking about this the other day with like explaining to a kid, okay, there's men and there's women, so there's he's and she's, but now we've got transgenders, and they figure out what gender they want to be, if they want to be any gender at all, because there's like the gender fluid and stuff. And if you just explain it no differently than if you would just say there are men and there are women, but you add that in, then it's not a weird thing, and they're not like stigmatized, and it doesn't have to be hateful, folks.
I guess what I'm trying to say is that because I grew up in that era and I was like an Elton John fan and stuff like that, that when that news got broken to me, it wasn't a big deal. It's like, okay.
Right.
I'm not going to stop listening to the music. It's fucking amazing. So that's, I think that helped me, from day one, never be that guy.
Was that the 70s? Like where in the timeline did he come out versus like Freddie Mercury?
Mercury was a little later. I think Elton came out like
did people know he was gay before he announced he had AIDS and then promptly died, or
no? That all. I mean, people suspected, right. but there was no, as far as I know, there was no announcement that I'm now letting you all know I'm gay. There's nothing like that. It was just you just kind of knew he was.
Gotcha.
And then when the whole AIDS thing happened in Live Aid, then at that point, it's like you knew for sure and all that stuff. But
no, I don't remember this. I had read like didn't he announce that he had AIDS and then like literally died the next day?
Oh no!
Like he waited.
He lived another like year and a half.
Oh, with everybody knowing he had AIDS?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he. I think it was right. I think it came out right around Live Aid. At least that's where the movie has it timed. And then
Gotcha.
And then he died a year and a half later.
Okay.
And there's a part in the movie where he meets a guy who's like a busboy waiter guy at this lavish party he was throwing, and he was like kind of fucking with the guy, and and he was kind of coming on to him, and the guy turned him down and said, whenever you want to be just Freddie, because I like him, call me. And then that's the guy he ended up with.
Aww.
Who, he made good with his parents, made good with that guy, made good with the band. Right around the time he performed at Live Aid. And then,
Gotcha.
And then the next year and a half, they all looked out for him, took care of him, all that stuff. And Then he was gone. But, that Elton John was known to be gay about, I would say, 4 years before that. Maybe even.
Okay.
Yeah, because it was, Someone Saved My Life Tonight was like the benchmark moment. Because that's about him almost marrying a woman, apparently.
Right.
I don't know.
According to your sister, in a really bitchy way.
Yeah, I don't know that for sure, but it makes sense. Because it's such a hateful song. Whoever he's singing it to, it's it's like, I can't believe I almost married you, you piece of shit. And
I can remember, and it's funny talking about it now because, like, you hear, like, the AIDS medicines, the HIV medicines and such, it's possible to be almost completely cured.
Yeah.
Of course it costs a lot, unfortunately, but who thought back then when it was announced that Magic Johnson had HIV that he was still going to be alive when everyone else in the 80s dropped like so fast. And I can remember back, it would have been early 90s, I was a reporter at a news station, and there was some sort of fundraiser for AIDS victims in Saginaw, Michigan. And I had gone to like report on it and stuff, and there was a guy there who had AIDS. And again, this was early 90s, so this was just coming out of the 80s, and that was a very scary thing because did you remember? You remember
the first time?
I mean, it was terrifying.
The first time I saw somebody that had it on death's door, I was horrified. I mean, it's Walking Dead shit.
Yes.
It really is.
And I shook the guy's hand, and I just remember thinking, wow, he could kill me. I could be getting AIDS right now, which I realize now sounds so incredibly stupid, but we didn't know back then. I mean, this was early 90s, like 90, 91, when this was happening. You still had no idea. It was a frightening thing. Because you heard all the stories about nurses who, blood spatter had gotten on their face masks and stuff, and they still contracted it somehow. And it was just this terrifying thing because it was a horrible death. When
all the time they were sleeping with their gay doctors.
Yes.
Yeah. But, it was such a weird period because I don't know if you remember this. How old would you have been in 89, 90. How old would you have been around there?
18, 19.
Okay, so,
yes, everyone do math now.
I was like 31, 32, 33, somewhere around there. And I remember, like, guys boycotting on the Lakers because he was going to come back and play.
Right. Because it was scary.
Yeah.
It's again so weird that times have changed so drastically, and I'm glad they have.
And there was a game where he like skinned his knee or something, and you had
to call out the hazmat team to come out, and like defumigate everything right then.
And people like in the first 10 rows like went into the refreshment areas so they didn't look obvious, but they looked really obvious, and. Right. And it was just like, oh, my God, man, this is so fucking weird. Because, let me circle back a little bit. Magic Johnson is, like, my favorite basketball player ever.
Oh.
I mean.
Michigan State.
Yeah. I mean, truly, you got to remember around that time, Magic's 6'9", and he dribbles the ball like a point guard, and passes the ball like a point guard, and yet he can flush it, he can dunk, he can remember he took Kareem's place when Kareem got hurt and they beat the Celtics. Right. I mean, the guy was just, to me, if I have him in his prime and Michael in his prime, that's a tough pick. That's a really hard pick for me, because his talent was sick.
But Magic Johnson's been married to a woman named Cookie.
Yeah.
Her name is Cookie.
He doesn't give a fuck about her Cookie.
Well, that was the thing, too, because was it him and Isaiah Thomas that would kiss? Who would make out with Isaiah Thomas before every game? There was the kissing going on.
Was it him? Was it him? Because, well, who was Detroit playing during those years when they were the bad boys and all that? Was it the Lakers?
When, like the Bulls and Lakers and stuff.
Yeah.
I think it was Magic Johnson and Isaiah.
Yeah, because it had to be, because once the Lakers slid, their slide started when they lost to the Bulls. You know, and that was that iconic Game 6 where Michael with the flu, you know, put in like 63 points, and you know they arrived. It was like, okay, it's the Bulls have now knocked the Pistons off, and they're about to go on their 9-year reign of terror. But that Detroit team, that team was amazing. And somewhere in there, their nemesis, I'm pretty sure, was the Lakers.
Here it is. Magic Johnson and Isaiah Thomas famously kissed each other on the cheek prior to the Game 1 tip-off in the 1988 finals.
Yeah. Now, was 88, was that before Magic?
That would have been before, yes, because I was already in radio the day that the announcement was made that Magic Johnson had HIV.
I will never forget that day, because I was in a dentist chair just down the street from my office, and it's the first dentist office I ever saw a TV stuck to the ceiling. And I'm laying there in the chair, and they're doing a checkup on me and all that, and this breaking news thing comes on. You know, Magic Johnson has contracted the disease, AIDS.
Yes.
You know, and then, of course, they go,
it was a huge deal, because, I mean, all of us were sitting there thinking, wow, he's going to be dead in a year, too, and he's going to be wasting away and just, you know, looking like something from The Walking Dead. I mean, because that was such horrible deaths that people had back then. They still do, I suppose, for those who don't get the drugs and stuff. But,
you know, and that
isn't an issue now.
This is like right in the heart of fucking Showtime, and the Lakers just dominated the '80s, and they were the shit and everything. And it's like, I remember going back to the office, and people were like crying, you know, on each other's shoulders, and I'm like, what the fuck is this? You know, because I'm not from L.A., you know.
I remember being at the radio station with the little AP like dot matrix printer.
Uh-huh.
Well, like the AP breaking news would come over, like you'd hear the printer go off, and you'd be like, "Oh, what's going on?" And I remember breaking into programming, you know, like this is what's happening, and then recording like some newscasts so we could play it and make it more official and that kind of thing.
Yeah, and you know, right around that time, you know, people suspected people like Boy George, you know, had it, and you know, well, they were just throwing names out there just based on how gay they thought they looked or whatever. And
which then, you know, makes you understand why people like George Michael hid it for so long.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Have you seen that documentary on him?
No.
You should. He describes it like, it's so sad because it's so on the money, you know, how he basically describes his loneliness.
Right.
And why his life was so fucked up and everything. And then, you know, they were showing like him in rehearsals and writing songs. I mean, he was far more talented than MTV let you see, you know?
Right. He was just a hot guy with an ass.
Yeah.
You know, in the video. Was it? What was it?
But
gotta have faith. Dun, dun, dun.
You know, and then when I saw this documentary, I'm like, oh my God, this guy was the shit. You know, he was amazing, and he just was in the fucking wheelhouse of confusion about AIDS and gays and straights. And,
yes.
You know, I mean, it was just...
I mean, because he was such a sex idol. I mean, you know, all the girls wanted him, like, you know, up through like 40-year-old women at that point, you know. It was like, oh my God, George Michael, because he had that short beard, you know, that made that
every
whole
guy
trend
wants.
Right then. Yes.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, he was just perfection.
Yeah, I tried.
And,
I didn't have enough pores. Close but no cigar. You know,
you know, there was some Billy Mays like painting going on in there.
Yeah, I'm sure. but whoever was doing it, I mean, it's like I just had to say it. That was a beautiful man. You know?
Yes, he was.
I mean, he was.
He's dead, right? I mean,
yeah, he is.
Yeah, I thought so.
Yeah,
it's one of those like where once in a while you kind of go, oh, like the other day I actually went, oh, that's right, Prince is dead. You know, I know it, I just forget it, kind of thing. You know.
Yeah, it's like one day I was in the studio. This is about 10 years ago, and I just had this is when downloading first started, and I had my iTunes list playing while we were doing some prep work and everything, and Freedom came on. And I don't know whose list it was, but I'm like, God, it's a fucking great song. You know, the piano, dun 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 dun. You know the song I'm talking about?
Yes.
Yeah. And I'm like, God, that's a fucking amazing song. Do I vocalize this?
Why wouldn't you?
Do I tell the biggest heathens in the world that I work with that, you know, I think this is an awesome song?
Yes, you do, because that's how you spread tolerance.
Yes. Anyway, I let Peter do it. Because I'm soulless.
Because he deserved to be ripped on.
Yeah, and we kind of thought he was gay anyway. But
him and his beard wife.
I gotta give it to him. He's holding strong. I don't think he is anymore. I mean, nobody goes that long.
Well, see, they've been married long enough. They're not having sex, so it's okay.
Yeah, but you know, Peter had his girly perv side, so I believe his heterosexuality completely.
I remember this was my Peter moment because we didn't really deal with each other too much. We just kind of ignored each other. But that piece of shit Steven Spielberg AI movie came out.
Oh,
remember
God.
that? The homage to Stanley Kubrick because he died during the filming of it. And so Spielberg took over. And it, to this day, is the worst movie I've ever seen. That and Event Horizon. That movie pissed me off. It was so bad. I hated AI. And there's a reason you don't ever see it like on HBO or anywhere. It's just never on because it is such a huge piece of shit.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to the movie theater, and if you recall, I've only seen it that exact one time because I will never waste another second of my life watching this piece of shit movie. But there's all those fake endings for like the last 45 minutes of the movie. It felt like you kept thinking, okay, now it's going to end.
Yes.
Nope. It's like a Neil Young encore. It just keeps going and going and going.
It's like Powderfinger, the whole version.
God. And you could see everyone had like those, remember those blue, the blue lights on your watch, whatever those were called, the phosphorus or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And that was, this was the 90s. You could see those glowing throughout the theater because everyone's looking at their watch going, how much longer is this fucking movie going to go? It was awful.
Who was the star of that movie?
It was like little Haley Joel Osment was like the robot who doesn't know he's a boy or something. He was a little boy. Jude Law was the gigolo bot.
I want to say Depp was in it, was he?
I don't remember. I just remember this is why I don't like Jude Law because he was in this movie and I hate this movie. And then he was in The Talented Mr. Ripley, which also made him ooky. I just hate Jude Law.
Yeah, and then I saw him in some King Arthur movie a couple of years ago, and he was just an evil fuck in that too.
But he had creepy, especially Talented Mr. Ripley.
Yeah, he's not a badass.
Weird.
He's not a badass evil fuck. He's that smarmy Eddie Haskell,
Yes. And then he was just weird with the plastic hair and as the gigolo bot and stuff and AI. But I remember the next morning coming into the show and it was asked, what did you think of it? And I gave pretty much this opinion minus the cursing. And Peter was very offended by this. And we kind of went back and forth because he thought it was brilliant.
Oh, he worships. That may be the day you may have caused this. Where we had the big fight with him about the difference between movies and films.
I don't know if that was that.
Oh, I think it was. I think it was. Oh, God. I mean, there were real feelings dished out in that argument. I mean, it was, Terry's like, oh, okay, fucking Spielberg. It's a film, not a movie. What's the fucking difference? Yeah. And I said, well, film's made with film. Yeah, is that could be that it? Yeah.
I just didn't
me in there prodding everybody.
I had such high hopes for it, and maybe that was part of my fault. I've learned that maybe I shouldn't always have such expectations.
Yeah.
But for me, you know what? This Endgame, Avengers Endgame, I loved that movie. I've heard people bitch about it. I didn't mind the last season of Game of Thrones as much as everybody else seemed to. And when the last episode aired and it was done, I because my mom and I watched it together, and I was looking at her and I'm like, I'm kind of happy. It was a good ending. Everyone else in the world hates it. I
haven't seen it yet, but most of my friends thought it was all right.
I liked it. I got the Tolkien thing. Spoiler alert, even though if you haven't seen it yet, shame on you. Yeah. But Arya gets on a ship and she sails west. She wants to see what's west of Westeros, which there is nothing. And that is what happens at the very end of Lord of the Rings. The Gandalf and Frodo and the elves all get on the ship and they sail off, which was a huge symbolism thing. They were sailing to their death. That was the end of them. And this is kind of how I took it. Since these were obviously stories inspired by Lord of the Rings, come on, that was what was happening with Arya. She had served her purpose, and she was sailing off to her death.
Yeah, I took that ending as we're going to see them again, but we didn't.
Who? You saw who again?
Frodo and...
oh, no.
Yeah.
No. Because it was the end. That was the end of magic in Middle Earth when Gandalf and the elves left and Frodo went with them. That was magic leaving. And see, with the dragon going and all of the zombie people, White Walkers dead, and all of that, that's kind of an end of magic there at the end of Game of Thrones too. There was I felt a lot of Lord of the Rings parallels and little tributes to it.
I can see that. I can see where you think that. Totally.
Yeah.
But God, this is what I wanted to talk to you about. Because I know you and I are Karate Kid fans. Please tell me it was you that we talked about Karate Kid and how much we loved it.
No.
Oh.
I certainly have not seen the one with Will Smith and his kid, or whatever that was.
But
the old one, I haven't seen in probably 25 years.
Okay, stop right there.
Okay.
On TV, I don't know which channel's doing it. I'll find out tonight and let you know. But there is an 8-episode TV show, and it is Karate Kid 30 years later, and it's the blonde guy that he beats in the finals, and this guy's like a weed head. And
wasn't that Dolph?
No. It's some unknown guy. It's you never went. That's
actually, I remember now who I can see him totally.
Yeah, and that's what makes this so cool is that everybody in this show are the original people. And
even little Ralph Macchio, who's 50 and somehow still looks like he's 14.
Yes, and
a gray 14.
But it starts out. I don't know who wrote this. It may be the blonde guy because he's very prevalent in it. He's the star, but he, just ends up being a waste, a nothing. Like a handyman guy. He's barely paying rent. He's
not that there's anything dishonorable about being a handyman.
No, but when you saw him in the movie, he was entitled and rich and kind of a badass. And he's just this sarcastic kind of cool guy. I mean, I'm like, this guy's kind of cool.
So I would totally want to fuck him.
You would fuck this guy, totally.
Okay.
Yeah,
cool.
I mean, totally. And Ralph Macchio goes on to be the successful car dealership, of every make of car there is, and he gives every person who buys a new car a bonsai tree, and I mean, they just pour it on thick. He's as successful can be. And this other guy, just everything went to shit for him. And he starts Cobra Kai up again. The evil gym, the evil dojo.
Right.
And, he.
Well, wait, there's no Mr. Miyagi this time, is there? Because he's dead.
No, but I'll get to that in a sec.
Okay.
All right. So this guy.
Oh, they didn't CGI him in, did they?
No.
Okay.
This guy's at like a 7-Eleven one night, and these 4 douchebag kids show up.
They steal his car and kill his dog.
And they're fucking with this one kid. And that lives in his apartment complex, and they're beating him up pretty bad. And he goes over, he goes, "Hey, why don't you leave the fucking guy alone?" It's like the guy's like, "Oh, you want some of this, motherfucker?" And all that. He's like, "No, I don't. Just leave him alone, all right?" And they entice him into a fight, and he just fucking lays these 4 kids out.
Now, wait, is this the blonde guy or Ralph Macchio?
The blonde guy.
Okay.
And it's like, in the first episode, they make this guy into a total hero. It's like you're like, I love this guy. He's like getting high. He's just a normal fucking guy. But he starts to realize he misses, karate, that it had some sort of purpose for him. So
karate.
So he opens the dojo, and he brings the kid on that he beat up the kids for to teach him how to fight for himself. And it just goes from there. And this kid ends up dating Danny LaRusso's daughter, and this guy's just totally annoyed by it. He's like, "You're dating LaRusso's daughter?" He's like, "What the fuck?" He goes, "I fucking hate him, right?" And it's awesome. I binge watched it all the way through.
What is it on? Like Netflix or Prime?
It's something like that. Maybe I'll find it. Hold on a sec here. But oh my God, Stacey, I love the Karate Kid movie, but this TV show was so the right direction to go after it. And at the end, in the last episode, you will never guess who shows up.
Well, not Mr. Miyagi.
I'm not going to say. I'm just saying.
Obi-Wan.
Darth Vader.
So, since you're talking about shows like that, real quick, because we're coming up on an hour, Chernobyl on HBO. Wow.
Was it good?
It was fabulous, and it's going to open your eyes to a lot of stuff, and it's so depressing. But you sit there and because this was late 80s, this was 86ish, I think.
Yeah.
I knew. I can remember. We knew what we were supposed to do if there was something nuclear that happened. These people didn't have a fucking clue. The hospital that was right there didn't even have any iodine pills.
I know.
Oh my God.
I watched the first episode. I'm just like, get out of there.
They're all standing there, look on the bridge, looking at the sky glow green, and they're all dead. At the last 10 minutes of the last episode is them doing, this is what happened to so and so, and it's just depressing. There was. I'm going to try not to be super spoilery, but sorry, but it's Chernobyl. You should know what happened.
Yeah.
They have to. There's the cement pad that they're afraid the core is going to melt through. So what they have to do is they have to drill and dig under the cement pad and get some because they had to release the water tanks that were under there. Otherwise, that was going to cause a huge explosion. They went to this fucking coal mine, and all of these men are just dirty, blue collar coal miners. And they said, get in a bus. We need 400 of you. And they're
sent them to their deaths.
They sent them there. The guys knew what was going to happen. They are all in their protective suits and everything. They start digging. They talk to the foreman and say, this is what we need. And we figure 6 weeks before it's going to melt down through the cement. So we need this done. And the foreman is just sitting there, very no nonsense. He's like, no, we're going to have to work around the clock. We're going to have to start now. And he already has a plan. Like he's on it. And so they start digging. They're doing this by hand because they can't do it with any equipment, like hammers or anything. So they are literally digging under the cement pad that is melting down with a nuclear reactor core and everything. They're digging out under by hand, and it was so hot. The guy came to them and the foreman and said, we need fans. It is so hot. And they're like, we can't do it because that's going to kick up. It's going to blow stuff up in the air and stuff. And so these guys, it was so hot, they took off all of their protective gear, and these 400 men mined under this core completely naked until it was done.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Yes. And then episode 4, this one just really bothered me because after they had gotten the city evacuated, they had to send military and civilians in. They worked together to kill all the pets because people had to leave right then. And so now you've got all of these dogs and cats and things that are loose and hungry, and they're radioactive, and they don't want them leaving and spreading and so these men had to go in and just walk through towns calling, and so all of these dogs would come running up because people were calling and they're hungry, and they would just waste them. They would just blow them away. It was the worst thing ever. And you would think, after seeing all of the destruction of Chernobyl, for some reason that just really, really got to me. And the guy, there was this big Russian, and he had been in Afghanistan, and he was talking about all the people that he killed in Afghanistan. But he said to the other guys, he's like, you're going to shoot them, and if they don't die, you're going to keep shooting them until they die. If I see any of you letting any of them suffer, I will kill you.
I love it.
And it was like, oh, God, he's like a big softie for these animals. He's just assassinating. And they would pick them all up and take them to these huge mass graves and throw them all in and then just pour concrete over them.
Oh, man.
Yeah. It was just really depressing, but really good.
This is why I thought of you about this show. It's on the YouTube channel.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So you have that, right?
What's it called?
Cobra Kai.
I have YouTube. Cobra Kai?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll look for it.
And its first season was in mid-18.
Okay.
And if you're not hooked after the first episode, then I can't help you. Don't watch the rest of it because it won't get any better. But it is. I mean, I all day Saturday a couple of weeks ago, from 7 in the morning till 6 at night, I watched that whole season.
See, I did that with Banshee. It's been a long time since that first season of Banshee was the most exciting, fun, stupid thing I've ever seen. Oh, I just love that stupid show.
I know. It's a good show.
That episode there towards the end of the first season where she and the big bad guy that her father had sent after them, they just beat the shit out of each other that full hour. And, she was this pretty woman, and she's just getting the shit kicked out of her. I mean, they were bloody and scarred, and it was really just an amazing sight, watching them to go at it. I loved it. It was very Tarantino. Speaking of which, I'm sorry, because we need to go. Tarantino is doing a Star Trek movie. Is this true? Is this real?
Get the fuck out of here. I haven't heard that.
It's going to be rated R. A rated R Star Trek by Tarantino.
Wow. That blows my mind.
It's either going to be wonderful or oh, come on.
Hold on.
Will it be? Will it be other characters? Okay. All right. That's my time filler music, which is also Star Trek.
Only you will appreciate this.
Okay.
Spock, are there any signs of life down there? Well, let me check, Captain. No, Captain, no signs of life down here.
Michael Scott. And anytime anybody refers to space or anything weird, they hate that and they hate this.
So?
Kevin Durant. It's like, that gets played like 9 times a show. So?
Do you still play Alabama?
Oh, yeah.
That's like 20 years.
Well, we're on 3 different stations, so what do you want out of me? It's not like it gets played all the time.
I don't care.
Yeah. We got lots of new shit.
Wait, do you still have Gilbert Godfrey doing the 900 call?
Well, yeah, that gets played during best ofs.
Yay.
Then we got,
because that is funny.
And we got this guy. Never gets old.
Do you ever watch John Oliver on HBO?
Oh, God, yeah.
Did you see where they were using Gilbert Godfrey? And he was reading the Bigfoot porn.
Yep.
Describing the Bigfoot's giant penis. Oh, God. Gilbert Godfrey is just the best. I adore him more as I get older.
By the way, this is for you.
Okay.
She's a lesbian! A lesbian!
Who is
Nice.
that? Who is it?
I don't know.
It's Paul Newman and Slapshot. Yeah. Remember, he keeps going by the goalie going, "Your wife's a dyke."
Yes.
Your wife eats pussy. Yeah. And then he keeps coming down, the third time he comes down, he skates by with his stick up in the air going, "She's a lesbian, lesbian, lesbian."
God, he was hot. He was a beautiful, beautiful man.
He was a badass.
It was funny, back maybe a month ago, on something on Facebook, on some page. It wasn't like a friend who posted it, but some page with a lot of people had said, who is the best looking actor of all time? Or something, some question similar to that. And I was surprised at the number of people who said Paul Newman. I really didn't think he'd be mentioned at all because he's been gone a while, and just kind of out of sight, out of mind. But him, he and Robert Redford got mentioned a lot.
Well, my sister, who's 6 years older than me, she took me along with her and her friends to see Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid.
Nice.
And I remember her and my mom just ogling over that guy for years. 2 generations. So, yeah, he's going to get mentioned.
He was something that he could have been carved out of like marble, like a Greek or Roman statue, like, David or something like that. He just had that face.
And he was brilliant. He was a brilliant actor. He really
and
was.
Just a good guy, but still like a man. He was good, but not a pussy. He was just awesome. And was married to the same woman for decades and decades, and and she wasn't even like super, super hot. I mean, Joanne Woodward certainly was very, very pretty. I'm not in any way taking anything away from her, but
yeah, he could have gone hotter for sure.
Yeah, but he just dug her. He liked her cookies.
Well, what was the movie where he got the Academy Award for playing a down and out lawyer? Oh God,
Kramer versus Kramer.
No, that was Dustin Hoffman who was the lawyer in that.
Oh, was it?
Yeah. it takes place in Massachusetts. It's against the Catholic Church, and it's just fucking crooked, and the judge is on the payroll, and the hospital's on the payroll, and he has like no fucking chance whatsoever. And it's like I can't remember. It's like one word, but James Mason was in. I mean, just a brilliant fucking movie.
I don't know.
And I got to look it up before we go because that's how fucking good it is.
I know. I'm doing it now.
Okay, you are? All right. Just look up Paul Newman and James Mason. It'll come up because he got put up for it too. It's some sort of legal term. You find it yet?
The Verdict.
The Verdict. Yes.
1982.
Yeah. I mean, he definitely his zenith as an actor. It's such a great fucking movie. It really is.
See, now it's funny, James Mason. I couldn't tell you what he looked like right now, but all I can think of is John Hamm playing him in Saturday Night Live.
Yes.
As like the drunk, like I've pissed down my pants.
Yeah, I've pissed down my pants, and I'm.
He scares this little kid for Halloween, and the little kid goes, "I want my mommy," and he goes, "That makes two of us."
But James Mason's such a scumbag in the movie. I mean, he's just buying off everybody. He's totally going to win this case, and Paul Newman's sitting on some evidence. That he can't share with he can't even trust the chick he's dating or anything because, she ended up selling him out. And, God, it was such a great movie.
Okay, because we haven't talked in so long, and I'm sorry, this is going to be a super long thing, but as I'm like thinking of things. Okay, Super Dave Osborne died earlier this year.
Yeah.
Now, I had never paid attention to him. Never, ever, ever. Like, I remember him always being on Letterman and stuff. I just never paid attention to Super Dave, never watched his show or anything. And after he passed away, Jimmy Kimmel, I don't know if he actually showed it on the show, but like on his YouTube channel, he had like this 5-minute, thing and tribute to Super Dave.
Yeah.
And it's hilarious. And now I am this huge Super Dave fan, and I feel terrible that he's dead. And I don't get.
Who did you tell me whose brother?
He was Albert Brooks's brother. Because Super Dave's real name was Bob Einstein, and Albert Brooks's real name is Albert Einstein, which is why he changed it to Brooks because, well,
boy, that's some asshole parents right there, man. Whoa. All right.
But yeah, it makes sense once you think about it, but I would never have guessed them being related until I had heard it,
Well, Stacey, we needed this 90 minutes to catch up for sure. I'll see you in the middle of the week next week. We'll get back on a regular schedule. But, boy, what a fun podcast.
I hope so.
Yeah, it was.
It was for us. You guys don't like it. Fuck you.
No. Listen, you people out there listening to this is a fucking brilliant podcast. There's 70,000.
This was cathartic. I'm much happier.
Yeah, there's 70,000 empty motherfuckers out there giving you a podcast right now that you don't give a fuck about. So don't you ever say anything bad about this one. Okay, we love you guys.
Tell a friend, damn it.
Yeah, tell your friend. Yeah, if you have any fucking friends. If you listen to this, you probably don't.
Losers.
Yeah. We so identify with you, but we know our audience is small.
I feel your emptiness.
Yes. And we know it so well.
Yes.
And on the right day, thrive off of it. So there you have it. We'll see you guys next time. Bye, Stacey.
Bye. Bye.